Hello, wonderful brains. A very warm welcome in your English class with your learning buddy, Aprajita. So, we start with your English textbook, Language Odyssey, Class 8, by Knowledge Series, Amit Publishing House. So, children, ready for a new chapter? Here we start with chapter number 3 today. And the chapter is Wangari Maathai, an ambassador. Wangari Maathai, it's about Wangari Maathai, who is an ambassador. And what do you mean by ambassador? कौन होते हैं ambassador? Ambassador is a very important person who represents his or her country in foreign country. किसी और country में जाके अपनी country को जो represent करते हैं उन्हें कहते हैं ambassador. So let's know about Wangari Maathai. About the story, what's there in the chapter? Let's read it first. This lesson tells about an activist, Wangari Maathai, her struggle and achievements too. Wangari Maathai हैं इनके बारे में, इनके struggles क्या थे, इनके achievements क्या-क्या चीजें इन्होंने achieve की, उसके बारे में इस chapter में पढ़ेंगे हम. She founded the Green Belt movement in 1977. 1977 में Green Belt movement उन्होंने find किया था. To plant trees across Kenya, alleviate poverty and end conflict. एक तो trees plant करने के लिए plus poverty को गरीबी को हटाने के लिए and conflicts जो लड़ाई झगड़े उनको खत्म करने के लिए इनका जो इन्होंने जो काम किए थे उसके बारे में इस चैप्टर में हम पढ़ेंगे. She was driven by a perceived connection between environmental degradation and poverty and conflict. Let's read the story. Wangari Maathai's passion for tree and concern for the environment grew out of a love for her village and the rural countryside she grew up in. जहाँ वो पैदा हुई थी, जहाँ वो बड़ी हुई थी, वहाँ के environment से उनका जो प्यार था, that was a passion for trees and concern for the environment. वो बढ़ा उनके जहाँ पे वो रहती थी, जिस विलेज ग्रुप में वो रहती थी, वहाँ उनका ये पैशन बढ़ा. She spoke about a large fig tree near her family home that her grandmother said was sacred. एक holy tree उनकी grandmother ने उनको बताया था, एक fig tree था उनके घर के पास ही, a large fig tree. She would get water for the house from the springs protected by the roots of that tree. अब झरने से पानी लाती थी. अब वो किससे protected था? वो spring जो था वो protected था इसी fig tree के roots से. She said about 200 yards away from the fig tree was a stream named Kanungu. Kanungu, with water so clean and fresh that we drank it straight from the stream. उस stream में से directly ही वो पानी पी लेते थे क्योंकि उसका पानी इतना साफ था. When Wangari was young, not many girls got a chance to go to school from rural Kenya. But luckily, Wangari's family saw that she was very bright and sent her to school. अब जहाँ वो rural Kenya में रहती थी, वहाँ ज़्यादातर गर्ल्स को स्कूल नहीं भेजा जाता था पढ़ने के लिए. बट शी वॉज वेरी लकी. उनके पेरेंट्स ने देखा कि वो बहुत ब्राइट हैं और बहुत अच्छी हैं, बहुत इंटेलिजेंट हैं, तो उन्होंने उसको स्कूल भेजा पढ़ने. शी वॉज स्मार्ट इनफ टू विन अ स्कॉलरशिप टू स्टडी इन द यूएसए. उन्होंने स्कॉलरशिप भी ली यूएसए में पढ़ने की. आफ्टर फिनिशिंग कॉलेज शी केम बैक टू केनिया to teach at the University of Nairobi. US से अपनी कॉलेज फिनिश करने के बाद वो वापस केनिया आई और यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ नैरोबी में टीच करी. She was the first woman in East and Central Africa to get a PhD and the first woman to head a department in a university. पहली महिला थी वो जिन्होंने PhD की और जिन्होंने एक डिपार्टमेंट को हेड कर रही थी वो यूनिवर्सिटी. Wangari was very successful and could have led a peaceful and comfortable life. However, on her return, she found that widespread deforestation had caused terrible malnutrition and famine was stalking the land. वो जो उन्होंने सक्सेस हासिल की थी उससे वो बहुत अपना पीसफुल लाइफ है कंफर्टेबल लाइफ एक रह सकती थी कंफर्टेबली बट जब वो वापस आई उन्होंने देखा कि चारों तरफ डिफॉरेस्टेशन हो रहा है और माल न्यूट्रिशन के शिकार हो गए न्यूट्रिशन नहीं अवेलेबल है लोगों को और फैमिन भी आने वाला है तो उन्होंने क्या किया Earlier we lived in a land abundant with shrubs, creepers, ferns and trees because rain fell regularly and reliably. Clean drinking water was everywhere. There were large, well-watered fields of maize, beans, wheat and vegetables. Hunger was virtually known, she said about the landscape of her childhood. Now Wangari ने बोला कि जब हम छोटे थे उस टाइम पे चारों तरफ shrubs, creepers, ferns, trees सब फैले हुए थे और क्लीन ड्रिंकिंग वाटर मिलता था पीने के लिए कितने वाटर फील्ड्स थे वाटर्ड फील्ड ऑफ मेज थे मेज बीन्स व्हीट सब वेजिटेबल्स उगते थे चारों तरफ हंगर का तो पता ही नहीं था किसी को ये उस टाइम की बात है जब वो बहुत छोटी थी चाइल्डहुड की बात बता Wangari wondered what happened to that lush land. उस lush green land को क्या हो गया? Why couldn't women get clean water and healthy food for her families? अब वो women वो पानी clean water क्यों नहीं ला पाती हैं? क्यों नहीं मिलता उनको? Going down to the root of the problem, she realized that the land had to be reforested. अब जब वो root cause पे गई कि क्यों ऐसा हो रहा है तो मोदी को लगा कि इस लैंड को फिर से रीफॉरेस्ट करना चाहिए something had to be done about it and she decided that something was to plant trees कहते हैं कुछ करने का मतलब है कि हमें दोबारा से trees plant करने she began the green belt movement in a small nursery in her garden which later grew into a huge organization that has planted millions of trees in Africa. अब उन्होंने एक ग्रीन बेल्ट मूवमेंट स्टार्ट किया मूवमेंट और एक स्मॉल छोटी सी नर्सरी एक गार्डन था उनके यहाँ जहाँ उन्होंने प्लांट्स ट्रीज प्लांट करने शुरू किया और वो एक बहुत बड़ा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बन गया जिसने मिलियंस ऑफ ट्रीज अफ्रीका में प्लांट किया डिफॉरेस्टेशन हैड अकर्ड as in many other places in the world but forests had been cut down to grow cash crops for export or to build high-rise buildings. She suggested, let us use it to intensify our commitment to our people. चारों तरफ डिफॉरेस्टेशन की वजह से क्रॉप्स तो नहीं ग्रो होते कैश क्रॉप्स ग्रो होने के लिए डिफॉरेस्टेशन हो गया कैश क्रॉप्स फॉर एक्सपोर्ट करने के लिए ना उन्होंने सजेस्ट किया लोगों को Let us embrace democratic governance, protect human rights, and protect our environment. I am confident that we shall rise to the occasion. I have always believed that solutions to most of our problems will have to come from us. जितने भी problems आते हैं हमारे सामने उसका solution हमारे पास ही होता है. We only have to take the step to come out of that problems. In this year's prize, the Norwegian Nobel Committee has placed the critical issue of environment and its linkage to democracy and peace before the world. For their visionary action, I am profoundly grateful. कहते हैं अब नॉर्वेगियन नोबेल कमेटी ने ये एनवायरनमेंट को बचाने के लिए क्रिटिकल इशू राइज किया है So I am very happy and very grateful to them. Recognizing that sustainable development, democracy and peace are indivisible is an idea whose time has come. अब इस पे सोचने की जरूरत है. My inspiration partially comes from my childhood experiences and observations of nature in rural Kenya. As I was growing up, I witnessed forests being cleared and replaced by commercial plantations, which destroyed local biodiversity and the capacity of forests to conserve water. कहते हैं जैसे जैसे मैं बड़ी हो रही थी मैंने देखा, मैंने विटनेस किया कि ट्रीज कट डाउन किए जा रहे थे वो कमर्शियल प्लांटेशन के लिए, जिसने कि लोकल बायोडाइवर्सिटी को डिस्ट्रॉय किया और कैपेसिटी ऑफ कंजर्व वाटर कंजर्व करने की कैपेसिटी कम होती है. In 1977, when we started the Green Belt movement, I was partially responding to the needs identified by rural women, namely lack of firewood, clean drinking water, balanced diet, shelter and income. These were some of the problems which the women were facing when the Green Belt movement शुरू किया Wangari. And throughout Africa, women are the primary caretakers. पूरे अफ्रीका में women's ही caretakers हैं, holding significant responsibility for tilling the land and feeding their families. They are often the first to become aware of environmental damage as resources become scarce and incapable of sustaining their families. अफ्रीका में as women are the caretakers, तो सबसे पहले उन्हीं को पता चलता है इस environmental damage के बारे में, जबकि रिसोर्सेस कम होने लगते हैं और फैमिलीज को सस्टेन करवाना मुश्किल हो जाता है. I came to understand that when the environment is destroyed, plundered or mismanaged, we undermine our quality of life and that of our future generations. जब ये सब होना शुरू होता है, environment destroy होना शुरू होता है, तो हम अपनी quality of life को degrade कर देते हैं and हमारे future generations के लिए भी हम problems खड़ी करते हैं. Tree planting became a natural choice to address some of the initial basic needs identified by women. Also, tree planting is simple, attainable and guarantees quick, successful results within a reasonable amount of time. Tree plantation की एक main solution था. These are all important to sustain interest and commitment. So, together we planted over 30 million trees that provide fuel, food, shelter and income to support children and education and household needs. Now is Green Belt movement में एक साथ इन लोगों ने 30 million trees लगाए. Wangari and the team, they planted 30 million trees जिससे कि फ्यूल मिल सके, फूड मिल सके, शेल्टर मिल सके and household needs पूरी हो सके. The activity also creates employment and improves soil and watersheds. इससे employment भी बढ़ गया. Through their involvements, women gain some degree of power over their lives, especially their socio-economic position and relevance in the family. Women's को भी बहुत सारा work मिला करने के लिए. This work continues. Initially, the work was difficult. Yes, जब भी कुछ आप start करते हैं, शुरू में difficulties आती हैं. Because historically, our people have been persuaded to believe that because they are poor, they lack not only capital but also knowledge and skills to address their challenges. क्योंकि Wangari बोलती हैं कि ये बता दिया गया था लोगों के माइंडसेट ऐसा था कि वो सोचते थे कि क्योंकि हम पुअर हैं, हमारे पास पैसे नहीं हैं, तो जिसके पास पैसे नहीं होते, जो पुअर होता है, उसको नॉलेज भी नहीं होती है, स्किल्स भी नहीं होती. दैट इज रॉन्ग. ऐसा नहीं होता. Instead, they are conditioned to believe that the solutions of their problem must come from outside. और उनको ये समझाया जाता है कि जो आपके सामने प्रॉब्लम्स आएंगे उसका सोल्यूशन भी बाहर से है. बट human beings themselves have the solution of the problems. Further, women did not at that time realize that meeting their needs depended on their environment being healthy and well managed. Women's को ये भी नहीं पता था कि उनकी नीड्स को पूरा करने के लिए एनवायरनमेंट का हेल्दी होना जरूरी है और वेल मैनेज्ड होना जरूरी है. They were also unaware that a degraded environment leads to a scramble for scarce resources and may culminate in poverty and even conflict. Women were not aware of any of these things. They were also unaware of the injustice of international economic developed citizen education program, during which people identified their problems, cause and solutions. They then made connections between their actions and the problems they witnessed in the environment and in society. Okay, so women were not aware of any of these things कि कैसी चीजों का solution निकालना है. Thus, the poor and the disadvantaged, many of them women and children, got pushed into poverty and hunger. इन सब knowledge के न होते हुए क्या हुआ था कि जो poor और disadvantaged थे, इन लोगों को mainly women and children, वो poverty और hunger में चले. Okay, they were suffering from poverty and hunger. Connecting the dots, Wangari realized that to fix the environments, she had to fight for people's right and democracy. Now, Wangari realized all these things due to lack of the knowledge and all these problems which the women were not aware of. She had to fight for people's right and democracy. Then President of Kenya called her a mad woman. अब जो प्रेसिडेंट थे केन्या के, वो वैंगरी को क्या बोलते थे? मैड वुमन, पागल औरत, because she had protested against schemes that could harm the environment. केन्या के प्रेसिडेंट क्यों उसको मैड वुमन बोलते थे? क्योंकि वैंगरी ने प्रोटेस्ट किए थे, मैंने बहुत बार प्रोटेस्ट किया था, उन स्कीम्स का प्रोटेस्ट किया था जो एनवायरनमेंट को नुकसान पहुंचा सकते. She was often beaten during the protests. जब वो प्रोटेस्ट करती थी तो बहुत बार उनको मार भी पड़ी है. She led and went to jail many times. बहुत बार जेल भी गई. But she preserved her with her fight. लेकिन वो लड़ती रही. When asked what kept her fighting, she told the story of the hummingbird that her mother had told her. अब जब उनको पूछा जाता था कि आप ये प्रोटेस्ट जो है ये आगे कैसे लेके जाती हैं, आफ्टर बीइंग सो मेनी टाइम्स इन जेल ऑल्सो यू कीप ऑन विद योर प्रोटेस्ट, तो वो कहती थी कि मुझे इंस्पिरेशन मिलती है एक हमिंग बर्ड की स्टोरी से जो कि मेरी मदर ने मुझे सुनाई. नाउ दिस इज द स्टोरी ऑफ द हमिंग बर्ड जो कि वैंगरी की मदर ने उनको सुनाई. वंस देयर वाज अ टेरिबल फॉरेस्ट फायर. All the animals came out of the forest and stood on the edge, transfixed. एक बार एक जंगल में बहुत भयानक आग लगी और सब animals forest से बाहर आ गए. As they watched the forest burning, they felt powerless except for this one hummingbird. ये सब उस forest को जलता हुआ देख रहे थे और उनको लग रहा था कि उनके पास तो कोई पावर ही नहीं है, कुछ कर ही नहीं सकते वो, एक्सेप्ट एक ये जो हमिंग बर्ड थी, इसको छोड़ के सब लोग ऐसा सोचे. द हमिंग बर्ड टुक हाउ मच वाटर इट कुड इन इट्स टाइनी बीक एंड थ्रू इट ऑन द ब्लेज. As it burst its wings and flew again and again from the stream to the fire, the animals watched helplessly, including much bigger animals like the elephant, which could have carried a lot of water in its trunk. अब इस हमिंग बर्ड ने देखी, छोटी सी होती है हमिंग बर्ड, उसकी टाइनी सी बीक, छोटी सी, लेकिन उसने क्या किया, छोटी सी बीक में पानी भरती थी और जाके उस आग के ऊपर डालती थी. इट्स वेरी टाइनी, हमिंग बर्ड इज वेरी टाइनी बर्ड. लेकिन वो जो बड़े बड़े एनिमल्स थे वो खड़े होकर देख रहे थे. उसमें एलिफेंट भी जो कि अपने ट्रंक में बहुत सारा पानी लेके डाल सकता था, लेकिन वो भी खड़ा रहा. They told the hummingbird, "What do you think you can do? You are too little and the fire is so big. How can you help?" अब सबने उस hummingbird से पूछा कि तुम क्या सोचते हो, तुम क्या कर सकते हो, तुम तो बहुत छोटी से हो और ये फायर इतना बड़ा है. The little hummingbird turned to them without wasting any time and said, "I am doing the best I can, and that to me is what all of us should do." मैं अपना काम कर रही हूँ, मैं जितना कर सकती हूँ उतना मैं कर रही हूँ और जैसा मैं कर रही हूँ वैसा ही हम सबको करना चाहिए. I will be that hummingbird, said Wangari Maathai. Wangari ने बोला कि मैं वही hummingbird बनना चाहिए. And she was all her life. It has made a difference. People are more aware that war, peace, democracy, human rights, and the degradation of the environment are all connected. वैंगरी ने क्या बोला कि मैं वही उसी हमिंग बर्ड की तरह अपना काम करती जाऊंगी, और उनके इसी काम करते रहने से लोगों को ये अवेयरनेस आई कि ये सब चीजें एक दूसरे से कनेक्टेड है. डिग्रेडेशन ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट एंड वॉर, पीस, these all are interconnected. We cannot solve a problem in isolation without considering everything else. As she said in her Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech, sustainable development, democracy and peace are indivisible. उन्होंने अपने जब नोबेल प्राइज मिला उनको, तो उसकी स्पीच में उन्होंने कहा कि सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट जो है, डेमोक्रेसी एंड पीस, दे ऑल आर इनडिविजिबल. The divide नहीं किया जा सकता. Fine, they are indivisible. Now, in a nutshell, this was all about Wangari Maathai. In a nutshell, in this chapter, what you have learned, the struggling and motivational story of activist Wangari Maathai. Wangari Maathai की एक स्ट्रगलिंग और मोटिवेट किया है. वैंगरी मथाई ने बहुत लोगों को मोटिवेट किया है. द ग्रीन बेल्ट मूवमेंट, वी हैव read about the green belt movement also. So children, next testing time, take the correct options. Wangari won a scholarship to study in Japan, USA, Africa, none of these. She won a scholarship to study in USA. Wangari wondered what happened to that. School, country, lush land, none of these. What happened to the lush land? Green Belt movement was started in 1975, 1976, 1977, none of these. It started in 1977. The president of Kenya called Wangari a beautiful woman, a mad woman, a cunning woman, none of these. He called her a mad woman. It's next. Write true, T for true and F for false statements. Here are some statements given. Wangari Maathai's passion for trees came from her grandmother and other family members. Was it so that it came from her grandmother and other family members? Wangari's passion for trees? No. When she was living there, she saw herself and then her passion came. So this is false. Wangari Maathai could not have led a comfortable life. Yes, she could have led a comfortable life. This is also false. Deforestation had destroyed the lush landscape around her home. Yes, this is true. The dots that Wangari Maathai connected were the relationship between people's right, democracy and peace. Yes, this is true. Wangari Maathai found planting trees was a way of undergoing environmental damage. No, planting trees was a way of stopping this damage. So this is false. F here. Okay? Now, answer the following questions. Who was Wangari Maathai? Wangari Maathai was an activist who lived in Kenya. Which place did she belong to? She belonged to Kenya. Why did Wangari's family send her to school? Wangari's family sent her to school because Wangari was very intelligent and very active too. Now throw light on education of Wangari and her achievements. Wangari, when she got admission, when she finished her college from USA, she came back to Kenya and there she started studying in the University of Nairobi, and she was the first woman in East and Central Africa to do a PhD and to head a department, and she got the Nobel Peace Prize for all her struggles done for the environment, for the peace and for the people. What solution did Wangari take out to overcome hunger and lack of water? To overcome hunger and lack of water, Wangari told the people to plant more and more trees so that the food is available, the water is available, and the shelter is also available. What did she feel that they had to do for successful reforestation? For successful reforestation, the people, the Green Belt movement, which she was doing, which Wangari was heading, the people there planted 30 million trees, because for just to reforest, the trees had to be planted all around so that they grow up and they give food and shelter to everyone. List the ways in which Wangari's movement was helped by tree planting. Wangari's Green Belt movement was helped by tree planting, as the women were the only who were the caretakers of the family. She went and asked the problems of the women there, and she found that they were not getting clear water and they were not getting ample of food for the survival of the family members. And in this way, the tree planting, she educated everyone. She made aware of the need of the tree plantation for the food and shelter and peace. Because if the food and shelter is not available, there is a scarce of food, then the conflicts also arise. So to avoid all these things, the trees had to be planted. Describe in brief how commercial plantation affects the environment. The deforestation is done just for the commercial plantation, because commercial plantations, they just give the export to, if we export the things, we export just to get the cash crop, for the cash crop, the export is done. And here, if the deforestation is done, the shelter is destroyed, the food is scarce, and the water also becomes scarce. Everything comes in problem due to the commercial plantation. So people should plant more and more trees around them so that they are not in the scarce of the food and the shelter. So children, here we end with this chapter, and stay excited for the clamp of next video. I'll be back soon with a new chapter for you. So till then, stay blessed, stay happy, keep learning. Bye.